This is Tony Waldman from Eden Song, and you're listening to According to Metal.
Joining us on According to Metal is a guy behind a band that I remember hearing at the time and going, these guys rule. And it was a band that, and we all have those bands throughout our fandom where we hear an album, we hear a debut, they rule, they're great, you want to check out more of their stuff, and then they kind of go away for a bit, and every once in a while you'll Google them and go, okay, they're still around, and that is this band for me, and so I'm very excited to say that better late than never. 2017, new album out, and joining us on According to Metal is Chris Petersen from Cellador. Chris, welcome to According to Metal, my friend.
Hello, how are you guys?
It's great to have you, man.
Show.
I'll tell you what, and this is a band that, and Biv and I like to play this game, and you guys are a band that are a great example of this. Sometimes you'll hear a band, Biv, back me up on this one, you'll hear a band and hear it for 30 seconds, and you try to play that name that country game. You know, where you'll hear a band and you go, oh, dude, these guys got to be from Germany. You can just tell, right?
Yeah, I get you.
And so I remember hearing Enter Deception from you guys in 2007 and going, okay, clearly European power metal. Which country are they from? I'm trying to figure this out. And so imagine my shock when I do some more homework on Cellador and I find out that you guys are from Omaha, Nebraska. So at least at the time, it didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, these guys are incredible. You guys, of course, have a lot of things have happened in the band recently. Since then, you're now based out of Colorado, though, correct?
Colorado since 2009.
Gotcha. Yep. Now, let me ask you, as somebody who you basically, this is your second album. I mean, obviously you had Honor Fourth, which was an EP that came out in 2013. But what kept you going at this, man? I got to give you some credit, because for somebody who, this is your band in 2007, you had an incredibly great debut that I was a huge fan of, and that's why, like I said in the beginning of the interview, I would always, every once in a while, be like, where are these guys at? Oh, cool, their website's still active, they're still out there, I wonder what's going on with them, you know? And it's just so great to see that you're out there, you're back, and more importantly, what kept you going a decade later to continue to write music and continue to put your stuff out there? Because that's, my hat's off to you, man, because it's great work, but it takes some dedication to do that, certainly.
Well, number one, thanks for that. I do appreciate the kind words towards it. In my mind, really, we only had about a 2-3 year complete hiatus. I mean, this was going to be around 2009 into about 2010, I'll go ahead and say 2009, 2010, 2011. I mean, that was basically ground zero. That was when I moved out here to Denver. The band was in shambles. It was gradually falling apart. I still had my old bassist and guitar player from Omaha that was new to the band, who replaced Bill Hudson. Initially, we were all three going to move out here, but then, just for logistical reasons, they didn't end up coming out. So, I was basically by myself. But basically, from the end of 2011, that's when I met Nick, my current drummer, and then my bassist James, who recently has left the band, but had been in the band basically since the end of 2011. And basically, the whole year 2012 up to now, we've been functioning again as a band, as Cellador 2.0, if you want to call it that. Obviously, I had to get these new guys up to speed. Both of them were big. Not to mention Diego, who I knew as an internet friend from 2010 up through 2012, and then we finally met in person and started working together on the band and on Cellador. But anyway, we spent the whole year 2012 bringing everybody up to speed. That Honor Fourth EP was coming together. That's when we were recording all that stuff. 2013, we started playing shows, and we've been going strong as a band ever since then. Just basically what it was basically this being like a reboot of the band. We, for all intents and purposes, had to start from ground zero as a brand new band. I mean, we started playing the local Denver metal scene, playing all the venues around there, the whole Colorado mountain region, to be honest. But yeah, that we had to go through the whole process again of releasing an EP, which kind of acted as sort of like our demo, which is Honor Fourth. Used that to shop around to labels, shop around to managements, booking agencies, things of this sort. And it took the whole year 2013, but we found some industry representation that was interested in working with us. We did do a tour in 2014 with Hatchet and Ex Mortis. I know we don't have as much press on the whole Honor Fourth EP cycle, album cycle, if you will. But we were busy doing stuff that whole time. We started working with the management that was their job was to basically get us as much press and I guess spotlight on the EP as possible. Try to find us a new label deal. Try to find us a new booking agency. Well, long story short, that process ended up taking about 2 years. We stayed busy as much as we can, playing any shows we could get, doing mini tours. Most of the shows we did were strictly the western half of the United States. We started recording the album in actually late 2014. December 2014 was when we initially started the recording process for this album, and we thought we had a label that we thought we were going to be signing with. So we're like, okay, let's get down to it. It was still in negotiation processes, blah 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 blah. So we kind of like stretched out the recording process to kind of like, okay, as this deal comes through, let's kind of like, make sure that this album is going to sound perfect, blah blah blah. We spent the first 6 months of 2015 recording this album, and that label ended up not signing us, so we had to start all over again with the negotiation process, which which could take months on end.
Sure.
And we found a second label that was interested only on the grounds that we continue working with the management we were working with at the time, and it just didn't work out. We ended up not renewing our contract with that management, and because of that, we lost that label deal too. So basically, that was 2 year. The band has been playing shows, and we've been a full-time band since 2013. So 2013, 14, most of 2015, that was basically what was happening. We were kind of just sitting around like, okay, we have people working for us trying to make things happen. Let's just have patience, do what we can on our end to promote the band, and let's patiently wait. It's going to come together. It didn't, but luckily, we took the process into our own hands. I got in touch with Scarlet Records. This was after the album was already done. The album's completely mixed and mastered. They loved the album. They wanted to sign us. They gave us a great deal, which was better than the other 2 labels at that. And here we are today. So, yeah, there was a bit of a delay when the band fell apart after the Enter Deception album cycle, 2008, 2009-ish. I guess you could say we pushed it through to 2009 trying to make it work, but what can I say? Immaturity and differences in personalities, we just clashing. It came to a standstill. That old lineup just was not gonna stick around. But then 2012 to now, we were busy trying to build this band back up to where it was before, and finally we're kind of at that point. So
very cool. Now, I would think one of the cool things about being in the industry is that, hopefully one day you get to share the stage with, another act that you really look up to. And I saw that you got to play at least one show with Havoc. Is that right?
I think we played their CD release, actually, for their 2013 album. They had their hometown, because they're from Denver too, obviously, their hometown CD release show we were the opening band on. That was a great show. That thing was sold out. They really took the house down. We've played with them. We've opened for many national bands along this along this process. I was actually thinking you were going to bring up Halloween, because Halloween is one of our all-time.
I saw that too. The reason I brought up Havoc is because they're from Denver. You're from Denver. I just thought more of a connection. Like you probably run in the same circles, but that had to be a big deal for you.
Yeah, the Havoc guys I've known since, at least via internet messaging, since the days of MySpace, when we were both putting out our first albums. We would talk to each other via message about trying to set up shows together. I actually went to one of their shows with a couple other members of the band back in, I want to say 2007, one of their first shows in Omaha. We went and checked them out. They were still kind of like a 50% originals, 50% cover sort of thing. So it was cool seeing them playing like Slayer and Megadeth songs. And I'm not the bestest of friends with the Havoc guys, but I certainly see them around town, and we sort of linger around some of the same venues and breweries and bars and whatnot. So I run into them on occasion.
And it's funny you mentioned Halloween, because that to me is not only a band that I know you share the stage with, but I get a very Halloween vibe from a lot of your music as far as a very speed metal type of approach. But I guess it begs the question, because when I listen to Cellador, when I listen to your first album and even this one, there's certain snap judgments, and whether we like to admit this or not, especially as metalheads and people who listen to metal, there's always categories we like to put bands in, and some bands are totally cool with it. Other bands get pissed that you put them in a category. So rather than me try to, I would say, brand Cellador a particular sound of metal, what would you say to somebody who's not familiar with your music at all? The best description of what they could expect when they were to hear Off the Grid, for example.
It depends what kind of person. If it's a metal fan, I use the term melodic speed metal. I've been coining that phrase since like 2003, and that's still the term I stick to. If not that, I'll just say we're a melodic metal band. Leave a little bit of ambiguity for whoever is asking to listen to us and make their own judgment. I don't know if you're referring to the term power metal, whether I like that term or not.
Yeah.
We get called.
I guess, because I'm sure whether you like it or not, you're probably lumped into that category.
Right, and I don't get angry when people call us power metal. I mean, it gets worse than that. I mean, everybody says we sound like Dragon Force. I hear that thousands of times, and I'm used to it at this point. We also get compared to Halloween quite a bit. The power metal phrase, it doesn't anger me. I mean, who am I? I'm not going to kid myself by trying to really argue against that genre, because obviously I like that genre, and I through the years was influenced by a lot of bands from that genre, especially in the late 90s into the early 2000s. And still to this day, I'm finding some on occasion that I really like. But, the thing about power metal, that genre, and what people usually coin as power metal is it's such a bottlenecked genre, I feel. I feel like it really is like, of all the metal genres, death metal, these underground European maybe influenced styles, power metal in particular just seems to have its most specific fan base. It's like the people that go to Prague Power every single year, that sort of thing. It's like, and so not that that's bad. I mean, I like the camaraderie within the genre that the fans have with each other, and maybe the bands too. But kind of like what Metal Blade's philosophy was with us when we were on that label, I tend to kind of agree with that. I want to make sure that our band is that people from outside the power metal sort of circle of friends, people give us a chance and listen to us. So I don't usually tell people we're power metal. I mean, if somebody else calls us power metal, that's fine. I don't use that phrase too much. I just say we're a melodic metal band, and that's for metal. That's for metal fans in particular. By the way, if some random person on the street comes up to me and go, "Oh, you playing a band?" Which happens obviously. What do you sound like? I like the phrase Iron Maiden on steroids, just because I know
there you go.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very general layman's way of putting it, I think, for people who aren't even familiar with heavy metal bands to begin with. So that's usually the route I take.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned melodic speed metal, because, in fairness, and I will say this, and I wasn't, when listening to Off the Grid especially, there are some vibes that I do get of Dragon Force. The only difference is there's a lot more melody to what you do than what they do. You know what I mean? Like, I hear a lot more melody in the riffs. Yes, they're speedier than hell. They're super fast, just like Dragon Force is, but there's a lot more melody to it, at least in my opinion. That's what I hear.
I mean, and me particular as the songwriter, I could nitpick so many differences, in my opinion, between us and them.
See, I don't hear Dragon Force at all.
We're both fast bands, and obviously I've always liked really speedy music. I mean, I like a lot of punk bands, too, back in the day. I just like I like that fast, catchy music, and not to mention all the thrash metal that I was into when I first started playing guitar, and I just thought it would be a cool idea to sort of combine these thrashy, fast-paced bands that I was getting into with what was it, like when I was around maybe 18 years old is when I started really discovering what are normally called power metal bands. And I was like, oh yeah, let's combine this. That'll be something different, here in the Midwest. Nobody's got like a melodic high-pitched singer in their band, and so that was what I was trying to combine. And I remember